What's up, guys? As you've already know by the title, but if you've clicked on the video, this is the new DLC character for Borderlands 2 called Krieg the Psycho, who's melee. He's basically melee focused. I'll go over my early thought processes, but basically what you need to know really quick is he's melee focused, and I've had an absolute blast playing as level 61 Krieg. I'll show you the highlights, I'll show you the tree setups I used for some of the runs I've gotten. I didn't include the one skill tree setup that I currently found right after I posted the video, or right after I made the video. So I'll include that one on a later date, but it's fantastic. Currently, raid bosses I haven't had any success against yet, but that's because obviously I haven't found the optimal equipment, I haven't found the optimal skill tree setup, I haven't found the optimal strategy with regard to focusing on each raid boss, but that'll come with time. So I'm just being patient with it. But through mobs, this guy's incredible. Incredible fun too. He's like a more reckless version of Sal and Zero put together. Instead, replace guns with melee. That's basically what he is. It's tons of fun. I haven't found a tree setup, like I was saying to this point, that causes significant damage without needing the skill silence the voices. If you're not sure what that is, it causes its extreme melee damage increase at the expense of giving a 12% chance of attacking yourself, which is a huge problem when you face raid bosses, because if he attacks yourself multiple times consecutively or attacks himself at the same time a raid boss happens to, Nova, you're pretty much done. And unfortunately, I've had that happen multiple times where I've got the boss down to maybe a quarter health. So I'm going to have to try and refocus on maybe grinding it out or taking a new strategy. I know, it's early, so it's not a problem. I wouldn't use a B-Hawk or anything else like that with Krieg, because it wouldn't be taking advantage of his skills and wouldn't distinguish him from other characters. So I'd like to actually do it using his skills. He's a blast to blow down mobs. His tree setups are basically as you'd expect. Bloodlust and Mania are two trees you should focus on if you want to maximize melee damage and the length of your badass rampage. There's something very satisfying about setting yourself on fire through the Hellborn tree and bashing people at the same time. I found a perfect tree setup after I had already made a lot of these pieced up video rampages, so I prefer to keep my rampage going as long as possible. But if you have the right comm and you have the right actual tree setup into Hellborn and Mania, then you're gonna have tons of fun constantly regenerating your badass rampage, so it almost never goes away. It just requires the right comm. Basically, the focus I've seen in the back here, as you'll see, is basically focusing on high melee damage and keeping into the badass rampage as much as possible. You're also going to want, with regard to Krieg, as much health as possible, using a comm or using certain specs and like Feed the Meat and Thrill of the Kill to keep yourself alive. The other thing is, if you're facing mobs, you don't really need Thrill of the Kill either, because each time you get the kill, he automatically regenerates back to full. Not to mention, if you spec'd into Bloodlust with the right comm, you could basically keep yourself alive every time you got a kill, or every time, if you use a ruby, you could also regenerate health that way. The shields I basically use through it are the Hide of Terra and the Love Thumper, as you might expect. Using the Flame of the Firehawk, which is the end video you're going to see, which is absolutely hilarious. Oh, it's fantastic. It continuously novas, because if you spec into multiple skills he has, I think it's in the Mania tree, that basically keep his shield down as long as possible, you continuously emit novas and obliterate everything. I imagine it would work pretty well for Deadly Bloom and some other shields as well. You definitely want to spec into Embrace the Pain and Feed the Meat to keep your shield down as long as possible, like I was saying. I use the ruby for health regens if I can't get a kill or in between rampages. But basically, I've had some problems with them early on, and the first is what I already referred to earlier as silence the voices. With regard to meleeing a raid boss to death, you're probably going to need it, but the 12% damage chance pretty much kills any chance you have at reliably soloing raid bosses. All it takes is for one badly timed one or two consecutive, and well, that's it. Good luck with your run, even if he's down to quarter left health. The other thing I don't like is that you can't throw grenades in your action skill, which to be honest is awful for a character that, other than using a ruby for health regeneration or killing an enemy, doesn't really have a lot of ways to regenerate health. Again, this is more a raid boss issue though. The other thing too is that I don't mind the badass rampage going for the full length. It's usually not very short, even if you spec it high. But if you can't throw grenades or use guns very much, I'd prefer that you'd be able to interrupt it if possible. But that's a small gripe, not really an option, and I don't really care. But I would like to interrupt it if I could at times. What you've seen it in a couple clips earlier. I'm not sure where it is, but if you spec in a Hellborn, there's a one skill point skill called Hellfire Halitosis, which basically is that you breathe fire in front of you the entire time. I personally, I've used it. You'll see it a couple of times in this video. I personally don't really like it all that much, because the problem with it is if you use it at the same time that you melee, if you run into one enemy with a shield, because the shield's going to resist the fire, you basically can't kill him, and you can't melee while you're emitting that or breathing out that fire in front. So it's basically instant death. It's a terrible way to go. Don't use that skill. But I do, like, my point is, my only problem is if I was going to use that, which would be fantastic, I wish you could still melee as you're breathing out the fire. But again, small gripe, you can't do it. But basically, going back to the video here, this is one of the times where I spec'd into Mania and Hellfire, or Hellborn, I should say. See, there's the tree set up for this next run I'm about to do. I'm still experimenting with the trees. Obviously, since Krieg just came out, I haven't really had a chance to look into a lot. I don't have a lot of the perfect gear. But so far, I've had a blast through mobs. I can see him, like I've alluded to several times already, having problem with raid bosses. Like being able to emit that fireball in front of you to set him on fire, and to also, in the process, continuing to increase the amount of damage that you have and also set yourself on fire at the same time is so much fun. If you're sitting on the fence about this character, but you do enjoy the very aggressive melee attacking style like I personally do, I'd definitely say go out and buy him. If you're not that kind of person, you like sitting back more, or for example, you're a type that likes to wait for a lot of the bugs to be sorted out through patches, or maybe you're the type that just prefers to only fight raid bosses, then I'd probably wait on him, because that way you'll be able to get to see, well, you'll get to see other strategies with regard to taking out raid bosses from other people, and hopefully me once I figure it out. Because a main glitch they've had so far is that like the actual damage that comes through your shield's melee damage, which would basically be the roid damage, doesn't emit when you throw your buzz axe. It's a bit of a problem. Also, a lot of the damage doesn't really spec all that well, because the badass rampage alone, the buzz axe is supposed to administer a 500% melee increase damage, but through multiple videos I've already seen on the internet, using a 200% damage rapier emits, well, more damage than a 500%. If you're following the logic here, that doesn't make sense. So ideally, that'll be fixed. But I still think if you like, I personally have had a blast with him. I've basically a perfect storm of events with me busting a finger, and, well, busting a finger playing football, being currently unemployed, being fully done my university studies. I've had like pretty much 2 full days. It was raining outside. Perfect storm of events to me to actually play Krieg. I've been playing him pretty much non-stop since he came out, and I've had a blast. So yeah, buy him. Let me know if you want to see any other skill tree builds or more Krieg. See you later.
Never stop the killing! Never!